Okay, we're doing quotes of Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, the great Renaissance scholar who worked for the Medicis. And then I'm also going to do Ludwig von Mises. Ludwig von Mises, I'll actually have more than I got on Pico della Mirandola. He was a real genius. You know, he spoke numerous languages and he was a very enthusiastic young guy. He wanted to unify all the different philosophies in the Christian religion, and he especially loved, Plato. And that was sort of a hot topic back in those days, trying to unify Platonism with Christianity. I'm actually not that big a fan of the idea because Platonism directly goes into the whole mysticism, into Augustine and Protestantism. I much prefer Aristotelianism through Thomas Aquinas going into Catholicism and the Renaissance, what's good about the Renaissance. Okay, so anyways, let's just give you a couple quotes by Pico della Mirandola. Obviously, the Italian name is beautiful. He lived from 1463 to 1494. He said, God the Father, the supreme architect, has already built this cosmic home we behold, the most sacred temple, by the rules of his wisdom. To man it is granted to be whatever he wants to be. Let some holy ambition invade our souls, so that dissatisfied with mediocrity, we shall eagerly strive to desire the highest things, and we shall toil with all our strength to obtain them, since we may if we wish. And that's kind of one of the cool things about this Renaissance, this idea of unbridled potential, that, the world's your oyster. You can do whatever you try to do. And it's amazing, Florence was a small town, and it had all these geniuses, Marsilio Ficino, translating all the Greek and Latin books, and Pico della Mirandola. They're both working for the Medicis. They had their own little, Plato's Academy there. And they were then advising the great painters and artists of Florence, people like Michelangelo, and then later in Rome, Michelangelo, Raphael, and the other ones. Okay, so it's rather extraordinary. But I like that idea, the idea of what's the best we can do. We do not need to think of stepping back or being satisfied with second rank. Let us strive for dignity and glory to attain the highest. Yeah, he's a genius, young workaholic guy. Okay, now we're going to do Ludwig von Mises. He was a brilliant economist. He lived from 1881 to 1973. He says the criterion of truth is that it works even if nobody is prepared to acknowledge it. The bureaucrat is not free to aim at improvement. He is bound to obey rules and regulations established by a superior body. He has no right to embark upon innovations if superiors do not approve of them. His duty and virtue is to be obedient. Yeah, that's why you almost see nothing good come from the public sphere, because there's always a controlling person at the top. And all the people below that controlling person are afraid to do anything because they might piss off the controlling person who can take their jobs away. That's why it's especially bad to have people that aren't qualified. Because once you get rid of meritocracy, the people in all the high jobs, they know they only got their job because they kiss ass. And that means they'll never, ever try to do what's right. They're always just going to worry about, kissing ass to keep their jobs. So what I'm trying to say is you want a meritocracy, because in a meritocracy, if a person knows that they can get a job somewhere else, then they're going to do whatever they think is right because they're not worried about getting a job somewhere else. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is you need meritocracy or everything goes to crap. Okay, he says, liberty is meaningless if it only is the liberty to agree with those in power. Every socialist is a disguised dictator. Socialism is not what it pretends to be. It is not the pioneer of a better world. It is the spoiler of what thousands of years of civilization have created. It does not build, it destroys. Destruction is the essence of it. It produces nothing. Ludwig von Mises quote. Yeah, and Ayn Rand had said the difference between socialism and communism is the difference between suicide and murder. All right, Ludwig von Mises now talking about intellectual achievement. He says, education rears disciples, imitators, routinists, not pioneers of new ideas and creative geniuses. The schools are not nurseries of progress and improvement, but conservatories of tradition and unvarying modes of thought. And that's totally accurate. When I was a young guy, I'm like, oh, wow, here's an opportunity to get a good education. And what you find is, only thing you can get from a college or university is just taught the old school basic stuff. To really develop to a high level, you have to do that on your own. If you're lucky, You'll meet a few great professors in your life, but they're really rare. I had a really great professor in medical school. And I told my dad about it. This guy's such a great teacher, and now I can understand pathology so fast. It's beautiful. My dad's like, you're going to remember that guy all the rest of your life. I said, no, Dad, there's going to be lots of great teachers. He's like, no, no, no. You remember all the great teachers you encounter in your life on one hand. And that's about right. And I've been around a lot of places that are supposed to be top-notch academically. There's not that many professors that are interested in teaching because they don't get paid and promoted for teaching. And they don't get assigned to teach because they're good teachers. They get assigned for other reasons. Okay, he says, society cannot contribute anything to the breeding and growing of genius men. A creative genius cannot be trained. There are no schools for creativeness. A genius is precisely a man who defies all rules, all schools, and who deviates from the traditional roads of routine and opens up new paths through land inaccessible. A genius is always a teacher. He is always self-made. The first thing he needs is to breathe free air. Innovators and creative geniuses cannot be reared in schools. They are precisely the men who defy what the school has taught them. Most men are common men. They do not have thoughts of their own. They are only receptive. They do not create new ideas. They repeat what they have heard and they imitate what they have seen. What produces change is new ideas and actions guided by them. Those innovations are not accomplished by a group mind. They are always the achievements of individuals. So what ends up happening is in order to do something new and good, you have to break from the status quo. Well, if you break from the status quo, you piss off the teachers. You often piss off your colleagues. You often piss off big money and industry. But if you know you're right, that's what you have to do to be right. You have to follow the truth. And that's why a strong desire to follow the truth, do what is right, and Christian ethics, they all help to make that happen. You know, like Thomas Shaw's had said, you know, good thinking is usually more often a question of, you know, courage than it is of anything else. You just have to follow the truth where it takes you. And sadly, it's usually going to take you away from what big money wants, so you're not going to get paid to do it. All right, so that's it for today. I hope you found that helpful.